I hope all of your days are off to a good start, and we're so glad that you've joined us here. We're going to begin right now, and I want to welcome you to Wisconsin Literacy's fall virtual conference session, New Ideas in Family Literacy. And where's our guests? I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves as they begin their sessions. So, Laura, if you would like to take it away.
All right. Well, welcome. I'm Laura Sumner-Kuhn. I am the Executive Director of the Racine Literacy Program, Racine Literacy Council, and we are happy to share with you our new family literacy program that just started its second year. So I'll tell you a little bit about it. Forgive any of my inability to handle the technology. I wondered how I don't know if this gray bar is in your way. It would be great if I could move it, but we'll just keep moving on.
You're seeing it, we are not. It's
Okay, great.
just how this works.
All right. So I want to tell you a little bit about why we decided to move to a family literacy program. We're about to celebrate our 60th birthday here in Racine, and we've always taught adults for that 60 years. And we started looking around and seeing part of our reasoning was looking at the results of the Racine Unified School District, which serves a big portion of eastern Racine County. And we see the proficiency rates for reading, writing, and math. Then we also looked at the American Community Survey based on census results and see that roughly 10% of Racine County households speak a language other than English at home. So we know we have people who might have a language barrier to being fully engaged in our community and helping their children. And then about 9% of the county has less than a high school education. And about 40% of those 11,000 plus people have less than a ninth grade education. So for those reasons, we thought that it would make good sense for us to look at having more impact by working with the whole family. So you might say, how does one go about doing that? We interview all the members of a family to determine their learning needs, the parents and the kids. We contacted children's teachers when we are able to do that so that maybe we can work in tandem with what they're learning in the classroom. And then because as a literacy council, we already provide, as most of you do, an array of adult education possibilities from GED prep to English language learning to driver's prep and citizenship and computer skills, that we could also offer those to the parents who are in the family literacy program. So first, we interview the family, understand what they have a desire to get out of our program, and then they begin. So what's a typical family literacy program like? For us, it means that we engage a number of people. First of all, to make this happen, we have staff. We have some high school interns who are outstanding. And then we have volunteer tutors who join us. Everybody comes together in the beginning, all the families in one room at one time. Here you can see that we are in our large multipurpose classroom at the Racine Literacy Council on a Saturday morning. People are engaged in some kind of literacy fun activity that involves the whole family. And we encourage the tutors and the staff and the interns to join the families in these activities. And it's interesting, they build relationships with each other as families, with our tutors and our interns and our staff, and they grow their family bonds together. So that's a wonderful byproduct of that, having some packed time, as you will hear us say, parent and children together time, as well as engaging some people from the rest of the community. We do that for about 20 minutes or so, and then we separate the children from the parents. We separate the children by age group, and we have literacy activities for them to learn with tutors and part of the staff. They spend some time doing those fun literacy projects, and then we help them with their homework. Meanwhile, parents will learn about a parenting topic of concern to them. It could be, how do I have conferences with my children's teachers? It could be, how do I talk to my doctor? It could be, how do I look to see what homework my child has at school? How do I get online to see that? It could be a myriad of things that they want to learn. And as a group, we understand, but from our information that we've gathered from them, what it is that they might most need to navigate their lives in our community. Sometimes we decide for them that maybe they should know how to nurture executive function in their kids, and we'll have a workshop on that. Or maybe it's family nutrition. So we do that for maybe another half hour or 20 minutes or so. And we bring in some guest speakers to help with that. But then the parents turn to their own learning according to what it is that they've determined they need to learn. And in our case, just about everybody is an English language learner right now. And so we've broken them into small groups or larger groups, as the case might be, to be able to teach English. And then we bring them all together for some parent and child together time to end our session. The session is 2 hours. On Saturday, we are there from 10 to noon in Racine, and we have a new program in Waterford from 6 to 8 on Thursday nights in a local church. And we're embarking next month in Burlington. Family literacy program. We have yet to determine the time, but it will be in a school. So we're really excited about that. So we'll have 3 parts to our family literacy program. So what is it that some of the kids might do? One of the things that we really did, our first year was last year, that we really enjoyed was teaching literacy through creating comics. Since most of the children and the parents that we have speak a language other than English at home, and English is a struggle for them, we decided to lead them into literacy building schools where they could put their ideas and their pictures and some words together into a creation. And it was really quite fascinating. We asked them to think of a community or world problem, to describe that problem in pictures, to match it with some words, and to come up with a solution. And they could use themselves, their friends, a superhero to come up with things. And it was really quite eye-opening to what these young people, they were middle and high schoolers, had to say about the world. And then after they completed their comic book, they presented it to their parents, both in their original language, to the whole group of parents, I should say. They made a presentation in their own language and in English. And then we published them, so they're available at our Literacy Council, and they're also available online. What did we do for parents, parenting topic? I talked a little bit about this already. You know, we spend some time with the parents in these kinds of topic areas and then turn to their own specific needs. Now, we had some parents who wanted to prepare for driver's tests, or maybe wanted to prepare greater math skills so that they could move on to a program that required stronger math skills. But for the most part, right now, we are working with English language learners, and they all advanced at least one NRS level or more last year. How do we do this? So you might be thinking, how do you do a family literacy program with staffing, as most of us have very small staffs, and we depend on volunteers. Well, every single one of our staff members kind of plays a role, from our community engagement person who goes out to open houses and different kinds of school events and community events to tell people about this, to our bilingual executive assistants who help us do the interviews and talk with people who walk through the door about our family literacy program. And from our youth apprentice, who is a high schooler, senior, who's bilingual, who is incredible and helps with the younger kids and gathering more interns for us. So through that and our usual tutor recruitment, we were able to have enough people to run this program. It probably requires, right now, it requires more than maybe a dozen to 15 people every time we meet, because we have a number of families. So what did we do last year? We worked with 21 families. That's 65 people in Racine and Burlington. We were 12 weeks in the fall and the spring and 4 weeks in the summer. The average family spent at least 12 weeks with us. We have since changed that a little bit so that we've broken it into 6-week segments, because making a commitment to 12 weeks on a Saturday morning is a lot, either for tutors or for families. So we broke it up into 6-week segments, but honestly, I think most everybody's going to stay the whole session this year because they need English and they're driven and they want to be there. Almost everybody we deal with is a low-income family. If you are familiar with United Way, they are all under the ALICE economic level of subsistence, right? Barely subsisting. Year two, I mentioned that we had 2 sites and now we have a third. So this is constantly moving. We have more than 6 families right now in Waterford. We have 21 families here in Racine. We're working with a bunch of people this year. And it's so very rewarding. And as you might know from your own experiences in your own councils, there are gifts that walk through the door every day. So we have 2 families that are working with neurodivergent children, and they speak English and they have college degrees, but they don't know how to work with their children. And it just so happens that we have a board member who does this as a profession. So she is volunteering her time to coach these 2 families, and they've been meeting for about 6 weeks now, and already they see significant progress among their children and their relationship with their children and their children's performance in school. So we don't have a cookie cutter program. We've talked to the parents to find out what they need. And in this case, these parents were very interested in learning how to work with their children a little more effectively. So that's our experience thus far. I will welcome questions after we're done, or however you want that to happen, Marcia. And I can stop sharing my screen if now is the appropriate time to do that, but I don't know who it goes to after this.
Cabal is next. And yes, we can take questions now. You can either unmute and ask, or you can drop your questions in the chat if you have specific questions for Laura and this new program that the Racine Literacy Council is putting together. Any questions? All right, you did such a good job. We may not, just a thank
Oh,
you.
You're welcome.
It was great. It really was. Okay, Cabal from CAP Services in Stevens Point is up next to talk about their program. Bob,
Hi,
please.
my name is Cabal Moore, but for CAP Services in Stevens Point. I just started my position in June of this year, so I'm quite new. But I used to be in the program. The Hmong Uplift is our program. Let me here. Can you see that?
Yep,
So
you're all set.
I'm the Hmong Family Development Manager for Hmong Uplift. So I work one-on-one with the clients. Hmong Uplift is a multi-generational family literacy program that we run here. Basically, it's open to oh okay, sorry. All right, go back. Well, basically, our program, you have to reside in the Stevens Point School District area. You have to, it's a free program to our Hmong families. You have to have a education or educational goal or a career goal. We work with families basically to help them upskill, to further the career. A lot of families come in just to, if they need help with translating. So a lot of components of the program is parenting education. Basically, we help parents, we instill in parents that they're the supporters of their child's education, and that it's important for them to be involved in their learning. We also have adult education, because education is a key to a better future. We empower and encourage adults to obtain a degree or diploma. And then early childhood and elementary education, many of our students are below grade level. So we maintain communication with teachers and the school districts. We look at their reading level scores, and then we help them with their reading if needed. We offer tutoring for our children. Right now, I'm helping 2 students with reading twice a week. So usually it's just based on what the families need. We also encourage parents and child time together, so we're packed. Building healthy family engagement and relationships. So we have weekly family literacy nights. We meet every Wednesday. We do reading activities. I know this summer we did a sun safety night where we talked about how to keep themselves safe from the sun during the summer. We made visors. We didn't make sunglasses, but we had sunglasses to give out, and we made sun lotion together. And then a lot of times we invite guest speakers too. I think that kind of helps our families shift from always myself or my coworker from talking.
Can you talk a second about the kind of guest speakers you invite in?
Yeah, so we had the mental health navigation program from here, talk to our families about mental health. Mental health isn't widely spoken about within our community, so we thought that'd be a great opportunity to provide some information for our families. We had a home pharmacy in Wausau come talk to our families about vaccinations, the importance of vaccinations, why you vaccinate. And we had, I know we had a real estate agent from Wausau, a home real estate agent, come talk about the process of what you would go through if you wanted to sell your house or if you wanted to buy a house. I think there were many families who reached out with interest about home buying. So those are some examples. So our program includes culturally specific case management, weekly family gatherings, like I said, digital literacy classes for adults. This class is once or twice a week, depending on their schedule and how many times per week they're willing to meet. Basically, we offer basic computer education, keyboarding, how to use email. We created emails for them. We taught them how to job search, how to write resumes. I know right now, our digital literacy class, it depends, like I said, on need. So right now I am helping a client work on obtaining his citizenship. So we meet one-on-one and work on the questions, or if he has any questions about the test. I'm also helping somebody right now trying to obtain her permit. So basically what the clients need. Virtual tutoring as needed. For the digital literacy class, there were a lot of clients who weren't able to meet in person due to childcare or scheduling. So they're able to meet us virtually. our Hmong enrichment class, which is now Hmong Jumpstart. BGC runs it, so the Boys and Girls Club here runs it. We do contact them often. Do you need help? What do you need from us? We do a lot of the outreach, enrolling students, and we provide monthly at-home activities for families. I know a lot of families say that their children come home and they don't have a homework. What can they do? How can I help them? So we have a library here that we collect ourselves. If families need to borrow books, they can sign out books, check them in when they're done. We have work packets for children to complete with their families if needed, and ongoing civic engagement education. So 2 weeks ago, we just did a civic engagement education about the upcoming election, where we discuss who was running, what the election was about, and why it's important for them to vote. This summer, we did host a end of school year picnic with our families. So our families get together and we do a potluck and we just get together and talk, and we have activities for the kids. For a digital literacy class, like I said, we did use the North Star app. It's a program that we used. Basically, it kind of guides us on how to teach our clients from like how do you teach them basic computer skills. So how to use a mouse, how to use your speaker on your computer. Recently we started Hope for the Future. It's a uplift program for the youth ages 12 to 18. We provide a variety of academic and life skills to support their youth. Stevens Point is really small, so a lot of children, they don't have a lot to do after school, especially children who are not into sports, like my children. So this youth program runs once or twice a week. I think twice a week, I believe. A lot of times they get together, talk about their career goals, what they want to do when they grow up. They talk about social emotional topics. They connect with other peers in town here. Most of the time they get together at an elementary school here and play sports. So just something to keep the youth involved, the community. So the impact of Hmong Uplift, enrolling since 2015. We increase reading levels. We help increase family annual earning. We take reports every month, so we can see whether families are doing well, if they're improving, or if they need support in a certain area. Other programs that we help with, we work with the Shipa meals, which are meals that we provide for the Hmong elders in Stevens Point here who cannot cook for themselves. We also have a RISE program here at CAPS. RISE stands for Refugee and Immigrant Support and Engagement. And we help with Hmong Week, which is a big event here in Stevens Point that we help run. Basically, we host a week full of events each day, teaching the community about Hmong. And we recently started a Hmong dance group, which started yesterday. Right now we have, I believe we have like 9 students. A lot of the students had experience from TikTok. they learn a lot from TikTok, apparently. And we had a few students who had no experience. So it's something for the families here in Stevens Point to do, because we had a lot of families express interest in a Hmong dance group, and so we created one. And that's what we do at Uplift. Any questions? Sorry, I feel like I had a lot more to say, but
Oh, that's okay. I do have a question because you touched on it a couple of times, and that is providing some support or direction for mental health issues. And certainly not just in the Hmong community. It's true among all of the families and students that we serve. What kinds of resources do you direct them to or do you have available to them?
well, for the Hmong culture, I feel like it's not really approachable for families because they don't understand it yet. It's seen more as a disability, if anything, I feel. So unless families reach out to us and say, hey, my child is experiencing depression and they don't want to go to school, that's when we reach out to our mental health navigation program. Right now, I am helping a few students. They I think it's just a culture clash where they want to fit in with their peers at school, but they have all these responsibilities, the home culture that they have to deal with at home. And so um, a lot of times we sit with the parents and say, your child is experiencing depression because of this, and this is how you can help them at home. And then we help the students with what can your parents do, or how can we help your what can we do to help you at school and or at home. And if
Great.
they need further support, then we refer them to a mental health course.
Wonderful. There were a couple of comments in the chat. One was they hadn't thought about the whole topic of sun safety. Frankly, I don't think about that very much either. So that is kudos to you for including that in what you do. And then one of the other questions was how share how your team selects topics for the civic engagement activity.
Okay, so a lot of so the election vocabulary is very big, and it's very hard for us to translate that into Hmong. And so we met, was it 2 weeks ago, I believe, we read a story and we define words with their children. And so we discussed what the definitions were, and we kind of like gave them examples, and we played bingo.
Oh,
So we read another book, and then if every time they heard that word or heard the definitions, they would have to put a chip on their board, and when they win, they have to tell us what that word means.
wonderful.
So I thought bingo was really fun for the parents and the kids because
Yep. Somebody
the
just
definition's just really hard.
vocabulary bingo. I love it. Yep. It's great. Super. Any other questions before we move on to our last presenter? Okay, Rita from Fox Valley Literacy is going to share information about their program. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. So let me share my screen here quick. Can everyone see my screen? Perfect. So welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. I'll talk about our family literacy. So who is Fox Valley Literacy? We share the power of learning to transform lives and enrich the community. For most of you guys know, we are an adult education nonprofit organization that helps adult learners improve their reading, writing, computer, math, English language, and job skills. Listed on the slide are our programs that we offer. My name is Rita Moa. I am the literacy program lead of the Family Literacy Program. here at Fox Valley Literacy. Our pilot program started in March of 2023, and our third program session will start in January of 2025. So right now we're in the planning phase of making sure everything is ready for our third program session. So today I'll go over why we started a Hmong Family Literacy Program, how we established our program goals, and I'll also share some of our teaching strategies, our language acquisition results, and how we achieved our goals. So a little bit of background information on the Hmong population in the United States. We've been here almost 50 years. There are over 300,000 Hmong people in the United States. Wisconsin is the third largest state with the third largest state with a Hmong population of over 62,000. In our picture here, you can see circled in blue are the counties we serve: Outagamie County, Calumet, Wapaka, and Northern Winnebago. I also wanted to share a little bit on Hmong schools in the Midwest. So in the last 20 years, in the Twin Cities, in Minnesota, they have the highest concentration of Hmong people with over 94,000. They have 14 schools that teaches the Hmong language and culture. Wisconsin only has 2 schools, one in Madison and Milwaukee. And here in Appleton, we were just approved for our first Hmong American Immersion Charter School, which will start enrollment in 2025. So even though Wisconsin doesn't have a lot of schools yet that offer Hmong language or culture classes, there are programs or there are organizations like myself and Cabal here who do offer Hmong language and culture programs. I also wanted to highlight that earlier this year, for those of you who may not know, on March 12th, the Wisconsin Senate Bill 240 passed to teach Asian American and Hmong American history and culture in a Wisconsin K through 12 public school curriculum. So it's very exciting to be able to share more about the Hmong people here. So why a Hmong Family Literacy Program? Right, we wanted to serve the Hmong community, considering we are the largest Asian population in the counties we serve and in Wisconsin. We know that the Hmong language is an endangered language, and we're working really hard to provide resources for families to be able to learn the language. Because we know that it's not an accessible language that is taught in public schools, which impacts our Hmong identity, our mental health, and our academics. The Hmong language is a part of who we are, right? The language you speak is a part of your identity. However, not all Hmong Americans may identify with this, especially if they can't speak Hmong. We value our language and we don't want to lose it. So, this impacts our communication with our parents, our grandparents, our Hmong elders. And we always hear Hmong families, say, which means, to keep speaking Hmong, otherwise in the future, you may not be able to speak it anymore. We value our culture and we want to preserve it. And in order to do that, we must know our language to understand our cultural customs and practices. Hmong students who participate in Hmong dual immersion programs succeed more academically. In general, research shows that dual immersion programs support the fact that bilingualism or multilingualism students learn better and build stronger social emotional connections and social and cultural awareness and competency. So a future goal for our family program is to start with the Hmong language, then adapt the family program to other languages like Dari or Swahili. So how did we go about starting and forming our family program? We assembled a stakeholder committee of community members in our Hmong community to identify our challenges, strengths, and opportunities. Then we facilitated a needs assessment with parents who were interested in the program and actually participated in the pilot program of what they wanted from this program. So the main thing was language revitalization for communication. So being able to speak Hmong to their children and for their children to be able to speak Hmong back to them. So based on our stakeholder committee and data analysis of our needs assessment, we established 4 program goals. The first one was obviously Hmong language acquisition, to be able to read, write, and speak Hmong. So how we formatted our class, it was hosted at a school. We had classes twice a week for an hour and a half. So the first 30 minutes of class was strictly learning Hmong language. Students get a 5-minute break. Then we resume class to learn about different Hmong history and culture topics. Because we know that due to, again, inaccessible and limited resources to learn Hmong, we are teaching both parents and children the Hmong language. Also, due to assimilation, when the Hmong came to the United States, there was a loss of practice of Hmong language because there wasn't anywhere where they can learn it other than verbally with their families. So most of our parents in our program can speak Hmong, but they can't read and write in Hmong fluently. Our second goal was to build stronger family connectedness, which is the last half hour class time is where parents and children come together to practice what they've learned, right? So we're creating a safe space for families to have the space to practice speaking Hmong, since most of the time they most likely will be speaking English. So they're using the Hmong, they're practicing the Hmong conversations they learn in their individual classes to use with each other. And it's our hope that families continue to practice and normalize speaking Hmong outside of our program and speak more Hmong at home with each other, and in order to create deeper and meaningful relationships with each other. We also provide some parent education on how to support, help and support their children's learning, which then also increases family well-being. Our third goal was to build a strong sense of Hmong identity. People and younger Hmong Americans always ask, like, who are the Hmong people? Are we Chinese? Are we Thai? Where do we come from? How did we get to the United States, right? So being able to learn about the history and culture of the Hmong people in our program, this impacts their sense of identity as a Hmong person, because they learn and they understand where their families come from, and that then strengthens family connectedness and family well-being. Which leads us to our fourth program goal was by being able to build a stronger sense of identity and practicing speaking Hmong fosters a better and positive mental health and family well-being. As we've mentioned before here, and also Cabal is saying, you know, mental health is we know that mental health is a big concern in the Hmong community. So it's about us having a safe space for family discussion, especially when there might be talking about trauma, about their family's experiences from the Secret War, or life living in the refugee camps, or life living in Laos and Thailand in general. So we teach expressions in Hmong so that families are able to communicate how they are feeling and what their mental health is like. So how did you feel learning about your family's history, right? You know, what do you think they went through, or having a better understanding of their family's lived experiences. So by being able to communicate in Hmong and express their feelings, will hopefully encourage children to let their parents know if they need help with something, or if they're going through something that may require additional help or resources, right? So in the Hmong community, it's not as prevalent to be able to express, you know, your feelings, how you feel, what's going on, how was school. And so it is different for younger parents nowadays. So going for those set of parents who have gone to school here, that's a little bit different, but being able to express about your emotions is still not something that the Hmong community really talks about. So what were some of our teaching strategies, you know, that we use so that we can see how Hmong students, what are best practices for our students to learn Hmong and retain it? So a lot of it is transferring our English language teaching skills from what we do with our students who are learning English in our EL program. So our main teaching framework is modeling I do, we do, you do, which is a lot of repetition and encourages opportunities for individual practice. So I say a word, we say a word as a class, and then you're choosing specific or different students to have that time to practice on their own. We do pair work, so they work in pairs or in small groups, and then we'll convene back together in a large group. Using total physical response or TPR is very, very crucial for us when we're teaching tones. So for those of you who don't know, the Hmong language is a tonal language, which means that the ending sound of a word distinguishes what that word is. So for example, when we're saying the word ba, ba, we're teaching our students. Sorry, my phone is going off. I can't hear you. I hope you guys don't hear that. But so when we're using the hand motion of a high tone, students, that helps students remember that, oh, this hand motion indicates it's a high tone. Ba, ba, versus when I say the word ba, ba, ba means blanket, ba means help, right? So we teach different hand motions to coordinate with the tone so that that helps them listen for the tone better. And when we speak it, they're able to write the tones too. We use a lot of active response activities. So research shows that physical body movement helps you retain your learning better. So a lot of moving around classroom, thumbs up, thumbs down, writing on the board, going up to the board to write your answers. So when we're teaching the Hmong language, we're using active response activities or interactive game platforms like Lumio, Nearpod, Jeopardy, or Bingo to check for comprehension of what they just learned. So we want class to be fun and engaging, as well as, you know, being able to still learn Hmong without really feeling like, oh, this is just like more school learning. So we always try to keep it more fun. Not to say school is not fun, but we don't want it to feel like they're just going to school to learn. So next, I'll talk a little bit more of our acquisition results. So for our first program goal, we tested families before they started the program to see how much Hmong language skills they had. And then we tested at the exact same questions at the end of the program to be able to compare the results. So children did amazing. They increased their reading, writing, and speaking skills in Hmong by 46%, and parents increased by 29%. So this data shows us that, as I mentioned earlier, most of our parents can already speak and read and write some Hmong, and they were still able to increase their skills. So we had 3 unit tests. So this is just comparing our second unit test to the final unit test. For reading, students increased by 30% by being able to read in a full sentence, and parents increased by 20%. So when we're testing students, they have to be able to read a sentence in Hmong out loud for us to listen to. There was a 50% increase for all our students, both parents and children, for being able to write in full sentences. So students have to be able to listen to the sentence being spoken out loud in Hmong, and then they have to be able to write down the sentence correctly in Hmong. And for speaking, 75% of our students can speak in full sentences by the end of the program. So for speaking, you know, we ask questions in Hmong, and students must answer the answers in a complete sentence in Hmong. So how did we measure our program goals to see how we, to see if we achieved our goals or not? So by monitoring and evaluating the program throughout the session. So we met with families during, we met with families to fill out surveys 3 times throughout the session. The first session we had was 12 weeks. The second session was 16 weeks. And then our third session, which will start next year, will be 18 weeks. So we talked with families to get their feedback on how they thought about class. We went in and observed our classrooms to see how students are engaging, how they are participating. Do they have the opportunity to actually practice? And then we also observe parent and children time together. So how are families interacting with each other? How can we make, what changes do we need to make to create activities that, are engaging for families? We provide instructor training and get their curriculum and classroom feedback. So asking our instructors, what's working well in class? What's not working well in class? What suggestions or recommendations do they recommend for us for our curriculum, so that we are able to incorporate those feedback into improving our program for the next session. So this is how we adapt our program each time we get our feedbacks from our families and our instructors. And then of course we do the pre-test, post-test, and the 3-unit tests to evaluate their language results. So as I mentioned earlier, the pre-test and per the pre-test and post-test scores, children increase their skills by 46%, and parents increase their skills by 29%. So the graph below shows the children's feedback on how they feel like their language skills is like, right? So after participating in Hmong class, do they feel like they can read, write, and speak some Hmong? So 60% of our students said that they can read, write, and speak Hmong. So that indicated to us that our goal was met. And it also supports the test results that they've taken. Next was our family connectedness. So we asked, does this program make you feel good about your family, right? So majority of our students said yes. Note that the person who said no is a high school student. So we do take into consideration that their perspective of participating as a family is different. We also asked, was it meaningful to participate in our program as a family versus by yourself? And so 70% of our children agrees or strongly agreed that it was more meaningful to participate as a family versus by themselves. And same with parents. So our goal was met. Building a strong sense of identity was our third goal. So we asked, the top graph shows at the beginning of our Unit 1 test, 60% of students somewhat understood or understood a little what it means to be Hmong at the beginning of our program. Compared to the 2 bottom graphs, they show the results at the end of the program, where the majority of our students agreed or strongly agreed that they understand what it means to be a Hmong person. So that tells us that our goal was met. And then last was fostering a better and positive mental health and family well-being. So we asked, do parents and children feel like Hmong class helps them feel like they're important and cared about? And the majority of them strongly agrees. So that, tells us that they know themselves that it's important for them to participate as a family. It creates better wellness for themselves, but to show that, our program also cares for them and that they matter to us to be able to participate in this program with us. So call to action, what can you do? Hopefully you can spread awareness and refer people to us about our programs if you have family and friends in the counties we serve. If you have friends who want to volunteer, our phone number is listed on there, as well as our contact information, our email contact information. For those of you who have any Hmong friends or families who can benefit from our Hmong Family Literacy Program, my email there is listed there for you. Any questions?
Yeah, feel free to unmute or drop questions in the chat for Rita and their program.
There is one question in the chat. Sarah is asking, what pre and post tests did you use for measuring the participants' language acquisition?
So I created my own. So I use similar strategies for the TABE test that we do for English. So, we test on reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And so looking at that, since it's for students, making it, I don't have an example to show you, but making it very simple and just having 3 slots, right? And 3 words in Hmong for reading, right? And I will say, okay, I'm gonna say a word and you are gonna write number 1 by the first word you hear, right? So then I'll say ba, and then they'll just read the word and then choose which answer they have. So I create the curriculum, I create all the tasks for it, but I do keep the mindset of, using again how we test our students for English, using that for Hmong as well.
Great. Other questions for Rita? Otherwise, we're going to move on to questions for all of our presenters today.
So thank you all.
Thank
Marsha, I didn't
you.
know if you want this slide up or
Keep it up. Yeah,
Okay.
keep it up as we're answering questions, and then we'll talk about this when we get near the end. I have a question that I would love each of you that presented this morning to answer. And it's always the elephant in the room when we talk about special programs. How do you fund your family literacy program? Laura, let's start with you since you went first.
Okay. Yeah, isn't that the $20 million question?
Literally.
Yeah. So,
Oh.
well, part of it is we do depend a lot on volunteer help
Yes.
in order to
Is there anything I can help you with? Yes.
in order for us to run the program. So we depend on some volunteer help, but also beyond that, I write grants for it as well. So I mentioned that this is our second year. I really had to do some cost accounting for it and figuring out how much it costs us to run a program of this magnitude. It's about $150,000 a year. And so, yeah, I've been writing some grants for this, and people have been pretty receptive to this. I've turned to a new strategy this year because the more families we serve, the more volunteers we need, and the more volunteers we have, the more families we can serve. So, in fact, earlier today, we have a department from a corporation here volunteering with our tutors for the day and with our programs. We have started inviting businesses in our communities to have a one-day tutoring experience with family literacy. They come in for an hour before the program to get orientation and training about what we're going to be doing that day and to find out where they'd like to work with parents or children. And then engage them for that session for help. And we've learned, people give where they volunteered. It's kind of a dual strategy, not only to build up our volunteers, but to build funding for the program through that. So we'll see how that goes.
Wonderful. Kabao, how about you? Do you have special funding for your family literacy program?
I have no clue. I work with families directly. My supervisor does all the grants writing. So I know she works with I know they write grants, but
Okay.
I'm not sure who exactly we get our grants
Totally
from.
understood. Sure. Sure.
She
And
couldn't make
Randy,
it today. That's why I'm covering for her.
yeah, no, I totally understand that. Rita, how about you? How is your program funded?
Yeah, so for our pilot program, we got funding from the Milky and Nelson Foundation, Family Foundation. So that really helped. Started with, I'm not sure how much funding it lasted for, but for sure, at least for the first 2 pilot programs, we were able to pay for our facilitators to do the needs assessment. We worked with a consultant on, what kinds of questions do we need to ask for a needs assessment. So we did get funding from the Milky and Nelson Foundation, but I'm not sure, how long that grant runs for.
Sure, sure. And I did see a question in the chat pop up, which foundation, and you just noted it, which one, but I would encourage all of you who are looking at funding from area foundations to connect with your local community foundation or maybe regional community foundation. There's a question for Laura. Oops, and I just lost it.
I see it, Marcia. I can take.
Thank you.
So, let me answer the first question too about funding. We looked at where we needed the most funding and what was a priority for us. And so we shifted the programs that we asked for United Way funding to fund our family literacy program. We also did that for the Racine Community Foundation and the Burlington Community Fund. All three of them are funding our family literacy program. For the question of, do the companies allow employee paid time? Absolutely. That's why there's a company here today paying for their employees to be here. And it's kind of a symbiotic relationship. In this particular company at CCB Technologies in Racine, we have one of their employees who is a tutor for us now. He's had a very great experience. He's been talking it up in his company. They contacted me this summer to see if there was a volunteer experience for them. And while they couldn't do it on a Saturday when we have family literacy or a Thursday night, they needed it to be during the workday so they could pay them. So that does happen where they get paid for their volunteer time, but generally there will be some kind of company guideline or policy or encouragement that where their employees volunteer, they will donate. And so I hope one will follow the other.
Nice.
Hopefully that answers your question.
Hope so. Robin, there was another question that popped up. Could you share that, please?
Yes. So that foundation that you just mentioned, one of the participants is asking if you could please spell that.
Is that a question for me or?
Yes,
for
I
who?
No.
think that was for Rita.
Okay.
Don't quote me on it, but I would have to look.
You know what? You can throw it in the chat if you want to check it out and do that. And then the other question was for Laura. When you reference the American Community Survey in your data slide, could you share who funded or facilitated that survey in Racine?
Okay, that is not a community generated survey. So the American Community Survey is an update to the US Census every year. So the US Census does a census, as we know, every 10 years. And then the American Community Survey is a subset of the census that every year updates the information. And they follow metropolitan areas. And so you can go online, Google US American Survey. You'll or go to the US Census and find and in the search bar do American Community Survey. And for most communities, they will repeat some basic information that they've updated based on some surveys that they do in a specific geographical area to determine things like, you know, income and household education attainment and languages other than English spoken at home. So these are extrapolated every year from the American Community Survey, and you can find them, I would imagine, in just about every city you're in.
Great. Oh, and I see it's there in the chat. So if anybody wants to check that out further, that's very cool. And another question was, what is RUSD?
Yeah,
That
it's
is.
the Racine Unified School
Yeah,
District.
we throw these acronyms around
Sorry.
so thoughtfully that yeah, we forget that people don't live where we live.
So I wanted to make a correction. I just found it. It's the Milky Family Foundation, the Wallace Family Foundation.
Oh, perfect. Okay, great. And I see that's in the chat, so thank you. Other questions? We've got a few minutes before we have to end our session, and we'd love to hear other things that you have. Another question that I had is, how did you determine there was a need for this family literacy program that you each have? Did it come out of something specific, or did it just sort of grow organically?
So I can start with me. That's how I got into my position. So my position was specifically created for the program. So from my understanding, there was already initial community feedback, which I was not a part of because that was before my time here. So there was from my understanding and from what I remember is the need was expressed for Hmong language for families to come together to be able to be proactive, right? And have ways to discuss mental health without saying this is mental health, right? And so that was kind of how my position in the program started.
Great. Anybody else? Laura, how did you decide it was time to add this dimension?
Well, we looked at the American Community Survey to see what the education attainment is for our area, but I have lived in this area for 36 years, and professionally, I came here as a journalist, and I've watched the lack of education attainment and reading and writing proficiency and language proficiency for decades. So I've worked in other nonprofits that served whole families. So I knew that there was an appetite to have a whole family come and learn together because I've done it in other positions. And I knew that there was a need. And so between those, we just it was a you dream it, they will come kind of process. And indeed, like I said, we served like 21 families last year. We already have 29 families in the program this year, and we've only been going for 5 weeks. So I know there's a need and a desire, and we've seen that it works. And somebody asked about what assessments do we do? We do the TABE English test for our, and the TABE academic tests for our parents.
Okay. And what different nationalities, languages are represented in the families that you serve?
Many of them are Spanish speaking, but we also have Ukrainian refugees in our program as well. So when we did it last year, we did everything as best we could in 3 languages. So all the printed material, we depended on Google Translate. we used Ukrainian, Spanish, and English. But we have people in our program who are from Guatemala, Nicaragua, Honduras, Ukraine, Mexico, Cuba, Venezuela. I think that's all of them.
Wow. That's amazing.
Mhm.
Cabal, how about you? Were you there when the family literacy program was decided on, or
I was
is-
not, but I know there was 3 or 4 waves of immigrants, Hmong immigrants, refugees who moved to the Stevens Point area. I think the last wave was in 2004. They just needed a place to go for resources.
Sure. Robin, is there another question in the chat?
Yes, there is, and it's not directed to anyone in particular, but I think it would apply to all of them. Is if you could speak to if transportation was a barrier for your families, and if so, how did you do anything to accommodate that?
Mhm. I can go. Yeah, it is to some of the families. And so we provide bus passes for those families. So our Ukrainian refugees, for instance, took a bus everywhere. They finally got their first car. So that was an exciting celebration here. Others rely on shared rides. And so when we talk about family literacy, I should also add that we are talking about the extended family. So we have some families that bring their grandparents, that bring aunts and uncles, and they ride share together. We'll have 2 families of brothers or 2 families of sisters who come and depend on each other for rides. But we will provide bus passes, but the buses on the weekend are difficult. And in places like Waterford, where we are now, there are no buses. So that becomes a difficulty, which is kind of why the Burlington School District is so interested in working with us to create a program in school, because there might be easier ways to get people most in need there, mostly from walking.
Makes sense. Cabal or Rita, anything to add to that in terms of transportation?
For for the family literacy program, I don't think transportation is a barrier compared to our ELL program. That's the majority of our student base. So I definitely say busing could be hard now that they changed the times. So buses used to run longer and later in the evening time, but they've shortened that. So we're trying to explain to our find ways to explain to our students that there are different um, opportunities for them to still be able to find a ride to get to class, but it's not going to be so much through the bus if it's like an evening class after 6 p.m. I would say for the family literacy program, though, transportation is not a barrier, but location can be. So the school that we are at is at Highlands Elementary School, which has the highest Hmong student population there, which is why we were very strategic on choosing that location. But we had families who were coming from Green Bay who wanted us to shift to a school that was closer to their location. However, we have to be mindful that the majority of our students are families are still in the Outagamie County, and so that's just something that was expressed to us from our families from Green Bay, was to say, can you guys host it in Green Bay? But we were like, okay, for now, the counties we serve is Outagamie for the majority of the students who have participated. So that's something that I say, if the program continues to grow, then we could branch out to different schools, right? And have the program at different locations. But because the program is still so new, it's hard for us to do that due to capacity.
Got it. How about you, Cabal? Anything to add?
No, transportation is not a barrier for my clients. Right now we have 17 families. It's more of scheduling. Half of our families work first shift and the other half work second shift. So it's hard to kind of organize activities.
Sure.
Busing transportation is not.